It all began when I met Tom in college. My name is Sarah. Despite being enrolled in different courses, we clicked immediately. He was humorous, personable, and really attractive. We dated during our time in college, and by the time we graduated, we were deeply in love. We were married shortly after graduation, and I was ecstatic. Ellen and George, my wealthy parents, had always provided for all of my needs. My wedding was no different. It was a dream come true, complete with a white gown, a lavish setting, and more. It was a happy first year of marriage. We had the world at our feet, were young, and were in love. I was teaching at a nearby elementary school, and Tom had secured a fantastic position with a marketing company. It was a nice life. Then I discovered I was pregnant almost a year after we were married. Although I was ecstatic, his response wasn't exactly what I had anticipated. Though it didn't reach his eyes, he grinned. I dismissed his lackluster reaction, attributing it to shock. I had faith that he would change his mind after hearing the news. Lily, our daughter, was born 9 months later. She had a pair of lungs that could rouse the dead, 10 tiny fingers, and 10 tiny toes. I fell deeply in love. Tom, however, appeared overburdened. Lily felt like a ticking time bomb in his clumsy grasp. He had almost fled the room whenever she screamed, which was frequently. One night when Lily had finally gone to sleep, he remarked, "I thought we'd have more time, you know." I attempted to soothe him, saying, "To enjoy being married, travel, all that stuff." "Tom, we can still do all of that." With Lily, things will simply be a bit different. Tom began staying late at work more frequently as the months passed. Citing difficult customers and large tasks, he had returned home after Lily had gone to sleep. A persistent skepticism began to form in the pit of my stomach, despite my want to believe him. For Tom, Friday nights turned into a night for males. He would go out with his coworkers and return home in the early hours of the morning, smelling strongly of alcohol. When Lily's cries woke him awake, he would yell, "Keep that kid quiet, will you?" Some of us need to sleep. 3 years passed quickly, filled with diaper changes, tantrums, and fleeting happiness. With her dad's emerald eyes and my obstinate chin, Lily, who was now 3 years old, was a ball of activity. Lily had begun kindergarten, and I had returned to my job. Although Tom and I had established a pattern, it seemed like we were only following the steps. Then the day arrived, shattering the remnants of our marriage. Over dinner one evening, Tom declared, "Next week, I'm going on a business trip. I'll be gone for 3 days." I nodded, used by now to his frequent travels. Tom's mother, Martha, called me in a panic the day after he departed. Her voice was tremulous as she continued, "Sarah, I'm at the hospital. Some chest aches struck me. Could you inform Tom?" My heart pounded. Martha, of course. I'll give him a call immediately. However, Tom was not picking up his phone. I began to worry after hours of trying. What if he had also been affected? I frantically contacted Mike, his supervisor. Business trip. Mike sounded perplexed. I didn't send Tom on any trip. My entire universe shook. Where in the world was Tom if he wasn't traveling for work? I was prepared when, 3 days later, he came in the door whistling, as if he had no worries at all. "How was your trip?" With a sarcastic tone in my voice, I inquired. "Your mom's in the hospital, and your boss says he never sent you anywhere." Tom's expression lost its color. "Sarah, I can explain." "Save it," I spat out. "For once, just be honest with me. Are you unfaithful to me?" I only needed the stillness that ensued as a response. "Her name is Amanda," Tom said at last. "It's been going on for a while now." It was a messy divorce. Tom argued with me over everything, including Lily's teddy bear, the home, and the automobile. The saddest part, though, was when he stopped paying child support. During one of our sessions, he growled, "I'm not paying for a kid I never wanted." Something broke inside of me. "Fine," I answered in a chilly tone. "I want you to give up your parental rights, but keep your money. Make it official that you don't want to have children since it's obvious." Tom didn't even hesitate, which shocked me. With a flourish, he signed the paperwork, and he was gone from our lives. The following 2 years were difficult. Being a single mother was more difficult than I could have ever imagined. But Tom's parents, bless them, helped out with Lily and provided us with money when they could. Then I met Jack when Lily was 5 years old. Emma, his daughter, was a year younger than Lily, and he was a widower. PTA meetings and playground get-togethers helped us connect, and before I knew it, I was falling in love once more. Lily and Emma were our flower girls, and we were married in a modest ceremony. For the first time in years, I felt hope blossoming in my chest as I watched Jack with the girls. Our small family became closer over time. Lily began addressing Jack as Dad, whereas Emma referred to me as Mom. We seemed to have been destined to be together from the beginning. 3 years after we got married, our son Max was born. Jack doted on all 3 kids equally, never distinguishing between his and mine. We were happy, really and truly happy. 20 years. Sometimes it feels like yesterday that Lily was a toddler tottering around our living room. Now, at 25, she's a college graduate, engaged and planning her own wedding. Where did the time go? Lily's fiancé is a great guy. Jack and I both like him. He's kind, hardworking, and he clearly adores our daughter. When they announced their engagement, Jeff opened a special account for Lily's wedding expenses and gave her full access. When we told Lily, she burst into tears and hugged us both. For weeks after that, our house was a flurry of wedding magazines, color swatches, and excited phone calls. Lily would burst through the door, bubbling over with news about venues, dresses, and floral arrangements. "Mom, Dad, you won't believe what we found," she'd exclaim, spreading photos across our kitchen table. "Isn't this centerpiece gorgeous?" Jack and I would nod and smile, caught up in her enthusiasm. It warmed my heart to see her so happy to be part of this exciting time in her life. But then things started to change. The visits became less frequent, the phone calls shorter. At first, I chalked it up to wedding stress. Planning a wedding is no small feat after all. But as the weeks went by, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. Then on a quiet Sunday afternoon, Lily showed up unannounced. The moment I saw her face, I knew something was wrong. Her usual bright smile was gone, replaced by a tense, almost nervous expression. "Mom, I need to talk to you and Jack," she said, stumbling over the name. My heart dropped. Jack, not Dad. In all the years since Jack had come into our lives, I'd never heard Lily call him anything but Dad. "Of course, sweetheart," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Let me get Jack." I found my husband in the garage, tinkering with his latest project. One look at my face, and he was on his feet, wiping his hands on a rag. "What's wrong?" he asked, concern etching his features. "It's Lily," I replied. "She wants to talk to us, and Jack. She called you Jack." I saw the hurt flash across his face before he schooled his expression into calm neutrality. He nodded, took my hand, and together we walked back into the house. Lily was sitting at the kitchen table, her hands clasped tightly in front of her. Jack and I sat down across from her, our hands still linked under the table. The tension in the room was palpable, thick enough to cut with a knife. "All right, Lily," Jack said, his voice gentle despite the worry I could see in his eyes. "We're here. What did you want to talk about?" Lily took a deep breath, her eyes darting between Jack and me. I met my biological father a couple of months ago. I was at Grandma Martha's, and he showed up. We talked for hours. He's changed, Mom. He wants to make things right. I felt Jack stiffen beside me. And what does this have to do with the wedding? He asked, his voice carefully neutral. Lily's chin lifted, a stubborn set to her jaw that I recognized all too well. He asked to walk me down the aisle, and I want him to. The silence that followed was deafening. I could practically hear the sound of Jack's heart breaking. Lily, I said gently, sweetheart, I know this is confusing, but Jack has been your dad since you were 5. Tom abandoned you. He signed away his rights. He made a mistake. Jack's sorry now. He wants to fix things. Lily's voice rose. Jack leaned forward, his face a mask of hurt and confusion. Lily, I've raised you as my own for 20 years. I've been there for every scraped knee, every school play, every heartbreak. I thought I was your dad. You are, she insisted, then faltered. I mean, you're my stepdad, and I love you, but Tom is my real father. It's my wedding, and I want him to walk me down the aisle. I saw the moment Jack's heart shattered. His face crumpled for a split second before he regained control. Lily, he said, his voice thick with emotion. I've always considered you my daughter, not my stepdaughter. My daughter. Well, I'm not, Lily shouted, jumping to her feet. You're my stepfather, not my real dad. This is my wedding, and I'll decide who walks me down the aisle. The front door slammed and Emma, Jack's biological daughter, rushed into the kitchen. What's going on? Why is everyone yelling? Close behind her was Max, our son, looking bewildered. Mom, Dad, Lily. I quickly filled them in, watching their faces change from confusion to anger. How could you do this to Dad? Emma demanded, glaring at Lily. After everything he's done for you. Max nodded, his young face twisted with hurt. Yeah, Lily, Dad's always treated us all the same. How can you say he's not your real dad? Lily looked around wildly, her eyes filling with tears. You don't understand. None of you understand. With that, she bolted from the house, the door slamming behind her. We all stood there in stunned silence. Jack's face was ashen, his eyes fixed on the spot where Lily had been standing. Emma moved to his side, wrapping an arm around him. Max joined them, and I watched as my family closed ranks around Jack. I moved to Jack's other side, taking his hand. He looked at me, his eyes swimming with unshed tears. I don't understand, he whispered. Where did I go wrong? My heart broke for him, for all of us. You didn't go wrong, I said firmly. You've been the best father any of these kids could ask for. I don't know what's gotten into her. As we stood there, our little family huddled together in the kitchen, I couldn't help but wonder how things had gone so wrong. And more importantly, how were we going to fix this? The days following Lily's bombshell announcement were tense. Jack and I kept expecting her to call, to apologize, to come to her senses, but the call never came. Instead, my phone started buzzing with notifications, friends and family members sending me links asking if I'd seen Lily's latest posts. With a heavy heart, I opened her social media page. There they were, photos of Lily with Tom, both grinning at the camera, so happy to reconnect with my real dad, the caption read. Each word felt like a knife twisting in my gut. When I showed Jack, his face hardened. That's it, he said, his voice low and controlled. If she doesn't consider me her father anymore, I'm not paying for her wedding. I'm blocking her access to the wedding account. She's made her choice. I didn't argue. How could I when he looked so broken? A few days later, the other shoe dropped. Lily burst into our house like a hurricane, her face red with fury. What the hell? She screamed, not even bothering with a greeting. Why can't I access the wedding account? How am I supposed to pay the vendors, the venue, the caterers? I'm sure your real father can help you out, Jack replied, his voice cold in a way I'd never heard before. Since you've chosen him, it seems only right that he should foot the bill. Lily gaped at him, then turned to me. Mom, you can't let him do this. Make him give me access to the account. I shook my head slowly. Lily, this is Jack's decision, and frankly, I agree with him. What? She shrieked. How can you take his side? I'm your daughter. And Jack is my husband, I replied firmly. He's been more of a father to you than Tom ever was. You can't expect to hurt him like this and still have him pay for your wedding. Lily's face contorted with rage. Fine, she spat. If that's how it's going to be, then you need to make a choice. Mom, it's me or him. Your daughter or your husband. Choose. She stood there, chest heaving, clearly expecting me to cave to choose her. My flesh and blood, over Jack. But in that moment, looking at her tantrum-throwing face, I didn't recognize my daughter at all. I'm not choosing anyone, Lily, I said quietly. I love you and I love Jack, but I agree with his decision. You're an adult now. If you want Tom to be your real father, then you need to deal with the consequences of that choice. Lily's face crumpled for a moment. I saw a flicker of the little girl she used to be, the one who would run to Jack with skinned knees and bad dreams. Then her expression hardened again. I hate you, she sobbed. I hate both of you. With that, she stormed out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. A few days after Lily's dramatic exit, my phone buzzed again. Another social media notification. With a sense of dread, I opened it. There was Lily beaming next to Tom. The caption read, "Thanks to my amazing dad for funding my dream wedding. It's going to be the event of the century. P.S. Sarah, Jack and kids, don't bother showing up. You're not invited." I showed Jack, who just shook his head sadly. Where did Tom suddenly get all this money? He wondered aloud. I shrugged. Who knows? Maybe he won the lottery. Either way, it's not our problem anymore. We tried to put it out of our minds to focus on our life and our other kids, but fate, it seemed, had other plans. A week later, there was a knock at our door. I opened it to find Martha and George, Tom's parents, looking worried and frazzled. Sarah, dear, Martha said, wringing her hands, we need your help. I ushered them in, calling for Jack. Once we were all settled in the living room, George spoke up. We got a call from the bank, he explained. They're saying we've missed a loan payment, but we never took out a loan. The next day, I found myself at the bank with Martha and George, piecing together a disturbing puzzle. Tom, it turned out, had taken out a massive loan using forged documents. He'd made his parents unwitting co-signers. I'm so sorry, the bank manager said, looking genuinely distressed. But unless the loan is repaid, we'll have to start proceedings against Mr. and Mrs. Johnson. Martha burst into tears. George looked shell-shocked. We'll figure this out, I assured them, even as my mind raced. How could Tom do this to his own parents? Back at home, I filled Jack in on everything. He listened, his face growing grimmer by the second. We need to call the police, he said finally. Tom's committed fraud. His parents shouldn't suffer for his crimes. I nodded, my heart heavy. Despite everything, I never wanted it to come to this. The next few days were a whirlwind. Police statements, bank meetings, more tears from Martha and George, and then finally, the news we'd been dreading and hoping for in equal measure. Tom had been arrested. As the details emerged, the full scope of Tom's deception became clear. He'd taken out the loan not just for Lily's wedding, but to impress a new girlfriend. He'd been living large on borrowed money and forged signatures. The funds have been frozen, the detective informed us. We'll be seizing them as evidence. My thoughts immediately went to Lily. All that money she'd been bragging about, the lavish wedding she'd been planning. It was all gone, fruits of a poison tree. That evening, as Jack and I sat on the porch trying to process everything that had happened, my phone rang. It was Lily. "Mom," she sobbed, her voice cracking. "Everything's ruined. The money's gone, the wedding's off. What am I going to do?" I closed my eyes, feeling a complex mix of emotions. Sympathy, frustration, a tiny bit of vindication, but mostly I felt tired, so very tired. "I don't know, Lily," I said softly. "I really don't know." A few days after the phone call, Lily showed up at our doorstep. Her eyes were red-rimmed, her hair disheveled. She looked nothing like the radiant bride-to-be she'd been just weeks ago. "Mom, Dad," she said, her voice small. I noticed she was calling Jack Dad again. "I need your help." We invited her in, sitting around the kitchen table where we'd had so many family discussions before. Jack's face was a mask of calm, but I could see the turmoil in his eyes. "The wedding's off unless we can find the money," Lily explained, her words tumbling out. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you, but please, can you help me? Can you give me the money for the wedding?" I glanced at Jack. His jaw was set, but I could see the conflict in his eyes. Part of him wanted to sweep in and fix everything like he always had, but we both knew we couldn't do that this time. "Lily," I said gently, "we can't just give you the money, not after everything that's happened." "But," Lily started to protest, but Jack cut her off. "We can't forgive you that quickly," he said, his voice firm but not unkind. "Actions have consequences, Lily. You made your choice, and now you have to deal with the fallout." Lily's face crumpled. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "Ben is furious. He says I'm unstable, that I create drama. He's threatening to call off the engagement if we can't have the wedding we planned." My heart ached for her. Despite everything, she was still my little girl. I wanted to wrap her in my arms and make everything better, but I knew we couldn't. "Sweetheart," I said, reaching out to take her hand. "I'm so sorry you're going through this, but this is a problem you created, and it's one you need to solve yourself. We love you." Jack added, his voice thick with emotion, "But we can't bail you out of this. It wouldn't be right, and it wouldn't help you in the long run." Lily looked between us, realization dawning in her eyes. We weren't going to cave. We weren't going to fix this for her. "Fine," she spat, yanking her hand away from mine. "I'll figure it out myself. I don't need you, either of you." She stormed out, leaving Jack and me sitting in stunned silence. Weeks passed. We heard through the grapevine that Lily and Ben had gotten married at the city hall with just a handful of guests present. We weren't invited. The night we heard about the wedding, I found Jack sitting on the porch, staring into the distance. "I feel like I failed her," he said quietly as I sat down next to him. I took his hand, squeezing it gently. "You didn't fail her, Jack. We raised her to be strong, independent, and responsible. Sometimes that means letting her face the consequences of her actions." "But what if we pushed her away for good?" he asked, his voice breaking. I leaned my head on his shoulder. "Every person in life faces situations where they have to make a choice," I said softly. "Sometimes those choices turn out to be wrong. That's what happened with Lily. But she's strong. She'll learn from this, and hopefully she'll find her way back to us." We sat there in silence, watching the sunset. Our family had been through a storm, and I knew we weren't out of the woods yet. But as I sat there with Jack, I felt a glimmer of hope. We'd weathered storms before. We'd weather this one too. 3 months after Lily's hasty City Hall wedding, I bumped into an old friend at the grocery store. As we caught up, she let slip something that made my heart skip a beat. "I heard Lily and Ben are having trouble," she said, lowering her voice. "Someone told me they're talking about divorce." I thanked her, my mind reeling. As soon as I got home, I filled Jack in. We debated for hours before finally deciding to reach out to Lily. To our surprise, she answered on the first ring. Mom, her voice was small, reminding me of when she was little and had a nightmare. "Sweetheart, we heard. Is everything okay?" There was a long pause, then a choked sob. "No, Mom, nothing's okay." Jack and I invited her and Ben over the next evening. They sat across from us at the kitchen table, looking worn and defeated. "We can't stop fighting," Lily admitted, her eyes downcast. "Ben resents me for the wedding fiasco, for alienating all of you. His parents are furious that they weren't at the wedding." Ben nodded, looking miserable. "I love Lily, but I don't know if love is enough anymore." I took a deep breath, choosing my words carefully. "Marriage isn't easy," I started. "God knows Jack and I have had our rough patches, but divorce. That's a big step. Are you sure you've tried everything?" Lily burst into tears. "I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "For everything, Dad, Jack. I'm so sorry for what I said, for how I treated you. Mom, I'm sorry for trying to make you choose. I've ruined everything." Jack reached across the table, taking Lily's hand. "You haven't ruined everything, sweetheart. You made mistakes, yes, but we all do. Have you considered seeing a family therapist?" To our relief, they both nodded. Throughout the first time in months, we really talked throughout the remainder of the evening. More tears were shed, but there was also laughing, and by the time Lily and Ben had gone, I had a ray of optimism. Lily and Ben pushed themselves into treatment over the course of the following few months. The therapist even invited Jack and me to join them for a session. Digging out past wounds and miscommunications was difficult, but it was also therapeutic. Gradually, we saw changes. Ben and Lily resumed their previous manner of looking at one another. Family dinners resumed their customary routine, this time with laughter and talk rather than conflict. Lily joined Jack and me one evening as we sat on the patio to watch the sunset. She curled up behind Jack like she had done as a child. She said, "Dad, I'm so sorry for everything. I was a fool to ever claim that you weren't my biological father." Jack gave her a hard hug while his eyes were hazy. "You have my affection, child. I always have and always will." Through Martha and George, we learned that Tom had been given a suspended sentence for the fraud. He had left town the last time we heard from him, presumably to start over someplace else. Life isn't flawless. Our family is still recovering, and Lily and Ben continue to face difficulties. However, I feel hopeful as I sit here and watch Jack and Lily converse and giggle. We have survived this storm, and I think we are stronger now. I have no idea what the future will bring, but I do know that family is about love, forgiveness, and sticking together through difficult times, not about blood or legal papers. And we are unquestionably a family by that definition.